Om Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Good evening again. Okay, so we had finished up to verse number 3. So let us please unmute yourself and we can chant verse number 4. Nalani dalagata jalamati taralam
Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam
Advajjivitamati chapalam Vidhi vyadhabhimanagrastam Lokam shokahatam cha samastam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. Okay, so I have just unmuted you. So this is the 4th verse, and Shankaracharya is pointing out the nature of our lives. How, we don't have unlimited time in this life. And as you know, the scriptures say that one of the primary purposes of a human life is to accomplish the goal of moksha. So Shankara is saying, focus on that goal. Don't postpone this activity. And if you look at the verses, Nalini is a lotus flower. And here he says Nalini Dala. Dala means the leaf, the lotus leaf. Nalini Dala is the lotus leaf. And Jalam is water. So Nalini Dalagata Jalam. A drop of water on a lotus petal. So he's pointing out that life is like a drop of water on a lotus petal. And Ati Taralam. Taralam is moving, trembling, unsteady. And what is the imagery? If you have to imagine a lotus leaf on a pond, and on that lotus leaf there is one drop of water, and there are, because of the wind and maybe the big fish moving in the pond, you have the movements of water in the pond. There are waves in the pond or the lake, and this is causing the leaf to move all the time. And since the leaf is moving, the drop is also, water drop is also always in motion. It is never steady. So he's saying that just as you cannot expect the drop of water on a lotus leaf to be very steady, tadvat, in that very same manner, jivitam atishaya chapalam. Chapalam means restless. Atishaya means extremely. Jivitam is your life. In that very same manner, remember that your life is also very, very restless. It is always going to be ups and downs. You cannot expect the life to be steady. And you will have ups and downs in your life. There will be happiness, there will be sorrows, there will be grief, there will be good times, there will be times for happiness, there will be time for disaster. And one must learn to expect that. That is why Tadvat, in that very same manner, understand that Jivitam Atishaya Chapalam. Understand that your life is just like that drop of water on the lotus leaf. It will never be steady. And therefore, do not have an expectation for a very steady life Steady meaning either only happy life. Steady life, you don't have an expectation, because such expectations are the very foundation for emotional disaster. Any expectation is basically setting yourself up for a disappointment. And if you expect your life not to be, unsteady at all, then that very expectation is laying the foundation for a lot of upsets in your life, emotional disasters in your life. What does it mean? Should I not expect any good experiences in my life? No. You must definitely expect good experiences in your life, because you will have some good prarabdha and you will have definitely some enjoyable experiences because of that good prarabdha. But just as you have good prarabdha, remember that you will also have negative prarabdha, you will have dukkha prarabdha, and therefore you must expect painful experiences. So that is being realistic. Expect to have some good times, expect to have some bad times. This realism, this realistic expectation is going to make you a balanced person. So wisdom lies in looking at both the experiences, good experiences, happy experiences, and painful experiences with an equal eye, accepting both as part of my life because of my prarabdha, and training my mind so that I don't get upset. And that is why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sukha Dukkha Same Krutva Labha Labhau Jaya Jayau Tato Yuddhaya Yujyasva Naivam Papam Avapsyasi. If you keep a balanced frame of mind and then go about all your activities in life. So Sukha Dukkha Same Krutva. Ensure that your view of Sukham, happiness, and Dukkham is with a mind which is equanimous. Mind should not be upset unnecessarily. And then realize that labha alabha will be there in your life. Realize that there will be profits, there will be losses. Jaya ajaya will be there in your life. Realize that there will be victories and there will be defeats. And if you do that, you will not fall into a painful situation. And that's why he gives a very beautiful definition of yoga in that second chapter itself. He says, Samatvam Yoga Uchyati. Balance of mind in all situations is a good name for yoga. And therefore, Shankaracharya says, Vidhi, may you know this. You should know this. What? Lokam. Loka is the world in which you live. So the entire universe in which you live, plus all the living beings in that universe, your relatives, your wife, your husband, your children, your mother, everybody whom you care for. Remember that this whole universe, grastam, is snatched from what? Vyadhi, from the mouth of disease, and abhimana, from the mouth of pride. So with the loka grahastam, vyadhi and abhimana. You must know that vyadhi represents obstructions to your physical body. What kind of obstruction? Obstruction in your journey of life. So diseases, illnesses, all these represented by vyadhi, because they affect your physical body. And abhimanam here represent mental obstructions, obstructions to the mind. Therefore, sorrow, all negative emotions fall under this abhimanam concept over here. And vyadhi and abhimana together, disease and sorrow, they represent the very many trials which we will face in the physical plane and in the mental plane. And therefore, we must understand that disease and sorrow are always present in the world. In our journey in life, these two are our constant companions. And therefore, one cannot wish them away. Or one cannot wish only one will be there, the other will not be there. They will always be there. They are your constant companions. What is the wise thing? To learn to live in this world, accepting these two as realities. That is why he says, why? Why is it a reality? Samastham lokam, the entire universe, shoka hatam cha, is subject to sorrow. So that's a very interesting description of the universe. Entire universe, he says, is always subject to sorrow. Why? As long as you depend on external objects for your happiness, you will run the risk of coming face to face with what we call dukkha mishritatvam. 3 defects in any object of external happiness. And if you remember the earlier discussions, what are they? The first is the pain of acquiring the object. The second is the pain of sustaining or maintaining the object. And third is the pain when the object is lost. And therefore he says, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Shankara is urging us to spend more time in the study of the scriptures so that I can discover the joy of self-reliance for my own happiness. When I understand that happiness is not in any outside objects, but that happiness is a very essential part of my nature, then and only then will you be free of the dependence on external objects. And therefore Shankara says, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Why? Because the discovery that Ananda is your essential nature is not found anywhere but in the scriptures. And Govindam here, meaning Lord Govinda, is taken as a study of Lord Govinda. And Lord Govinda is revealed by the scriptures. Therefore, Bhaja Govindam has to be understood as a serious analytical study of the Shastra only. Only with that can I discover the fact that happiness is my own nature. And I don't need to look outside anywhere for happiness. Okay, now if you unmute yourself, we will chant the 5th verse. Yavat vitto pajana saktaha thavan nija parivaro raktaha paschat jivati jara jara dehe Partam kopi na pruchhati gehe. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Govindam Bhaja Mudamate.
Govindam Bhaja
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. Okay. So, Yavat, you have to break that word carefully, the first word. Yavat Vittaha Uparjana Saktaha. That is the breakup. Sandhi breakup becomes Yavat Vittaha Uparjana Saktaha. So Yavat means until. And that is why you have in the next, right, Tavat. That's Tavat is actually Tavat. Anyway, we'll come to that. So Yavat Vittaha Uparjana Saktaha. Vitta is money, wealth. Uparjana Saktaha is, Uparjana means earning. Saktaha is as long as you are capable of. So Yavat Vittaha Uparjana Saktaha. As long as you are capable of earning Vittaha, money, that means to say as long as a person has a capacity for earning wealth, Tavat, until then, so that Yavat is a relative pronoun, it has to be connected to Tavat. So Yavat this, Tavat that. As long as that, up to that time, that's what it means. So Tavat, until then. Until when? Until the time that you are capable of earning money. Until then, Nija Parivaraha, your own family, Raktaha, is attached to you. So Shankaracharya is pointing out a very important and a very unpleasant fact of life, which many of us may not want to face. And therefore, as I said earlier, Bhaja Govindam is a text which gives you the entire outlook on Vedanta. The entire Vedantic teaching is given in, as an overview in these 30 odd verses. And therefore, you will find at many times, you will find particularly unpleasant facts. So we have to accept that. So this is one of those unpleasant facts. Acharya is pointing out that your family and friends are all attached to you, but only as long as you are capable of earning money and looking after their welfare. Until then, what happens? Vartam kopi. So vartaha kaha api na prichhati. Until then, only vartaha. After that, what happens? So first is the statement that yavat vittaha uparjana saktaha. As long as you're earning money, tavat nija parivaro raktaha. Till then, your own family is attached to you, will look after you, will respect you. Paschat. Paschat means afterwards. Paschat jivati jara jara dehe. So jara jara dehe is the body. Jara, you know what it means, right? Jara means disease. So you are living in a body. Jivati jara jara dehe. You're living in a body which is being attacked by old age and disease. Paschat. Afterwards. What does afterwards signify? Afterwards is when you are old, when you are no longer capable of earning, and when your body is attacked by old age and disease. Varta kaha kopi na prichhati gehe. So you break that into vartaha kaha api na prichhati gehe. Nobody, even in your own house, will ask you about your welfare. Varta kaha api na prichhati. Nobody will talk to you. How are you? Where? Gehe. In the very same house in which you have lived for so long and looked after the others, nobody will turn around and look at you, because now you are a burden. You are no longer useful to anybody. So Shankara is giving a warning that old age and death are certain, but nothing you can do. You can at the most, with a lot of care of your body, proper food, proper diet, proper exercise, all these things, yogasanas, Surya Namaskaras, pranayam, all these things you can do. You cannot stop the body from aging. You cannot stop death from coming to the body. You can only postpone. And we are usually blind to this fact when we are in our youth. Right? In the youth, when you're young, you read the obituary column every day. You see thousands of people are dying every single day. And yet it never occurs to us that this body will also die. It's always about the others. And therefore, in this, when you are young and you are earning money and providing for your family, and everybody respecting you and gushing over you, and you have lots of people around you all the time, you do not remember this fact. You do not think ahead and say, this old age and death is going to come to this body also. And a day will come when my body will no longer be capable of earning. And at that point of time, the very same people who used to respect me, who used to look up to me, the very same people will find me a burden. They will have no time for you. Your children will be leading their own lives. And the warning here is that Shankara says, do not try to look for security from the other people around you, even if they are your family, your loved ones, your children, your spouse. Don't try to look for security from them, because there will come a time when that security will no longer be available. The other people might die before you. They might go away from your house because they have other things to do. They have their own lives to lead. And therefore, your body will definitely become weak. The body becoming weak is not a problem. Right? Everybody's body will slowly become weak and die. But it's your mind which is more important. Because the body becoming weak is something I cannot stop. But my mind need not become weak. And the trouble comes from my mind, not from my body. And therefore, the rest of my life from today should be spent in strengthening my mind, so that when the time comes for my body to be surrendered to the Lord, I am content. And how does one increase the strength of the mind? By looking inside myself. There is no external remedy for this. I cannot look outside and strengthen my mind. The remedy lies in myself alone, inside me alone. So we'll do one more verse. It's along the same lines. And then we'll break for a small discussion if anybody has questions. So verse number 6. Please unmute yourself. Yavat pavano nivasati dehe.
Yavat
Pavano
nivasati dehe.
Tavat pritchati kushalam yehe.
Tavat
Pritchati
kushalam
Kushalam
Gatavati vayo deha paye.
Gatavatayo dehaye.
Bharya bhidyati tasmin kaye.
Arya
Bharyabhyati
tasmin
tasmin
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam.
Bhaj
Govindam
Govindam,
Bhaja
Bhaj
Govindam
Govindam,
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate.
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate.
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate.
Okay. So Yavat, as long as Pavanaha. So Pavanaha is the air, so the breath of life. Nivasati dehe. Nivasati means resides, from the word nivas, house. So Yavat Pavanaha Nivasati. As long as air is moving in and out of your body, dehe, which means as long as there is life in your body. Prichati kushalam gehe. People will prichati, ask about kushalam, about your welfare. And who are these people who ask? Gehe, the ones in your house. As long as this life in your body, your family members will inquire about your welfare. So your relatives, your wife, your children, they will come and they will ask you, are you all right? How are you feeling today? All those conversations will take place. Then Shankara says, Gatavati Vayau. When the breath goes away, what will happen? Deha apaye. The body starts to decay. So breath going away is, of course, means that the Sukshma Shariram has gone, and therefore the Pranamaya Kosha has also gone with it. And therefore the body doesn't perform the function of breathing anymore. And therefore, Deha apaye, the body starts to decay. Then what happens? Bharya bhidyati tasmin kaye. So Bharya is the wife. Literally, Bharya means the protected person. So Bharta is the protector. Bharya is the protected. And Bharya can be not just the wife, but can mean the supporter. So if it is the wife who is the supporter of the family, then Bharya is the husband, because Bhartra is the supporter, right? So here, in this case, we are taking it as a wife, in a conventionally accepted, protected person, looked after person who's a wife. So that same wife, Bibhyati, gets frightened of Tasmin Kai, that very same body, which was once the object of her affection. It was once the object of her love, which she looked after for so many years. Now, what has happened? Gatavati Vayo, the breath has departed and the body has started to decay. So that same lady is now frightened of that body which is dead and lifeless. So Adi Shankaracharya is pointing out that your body has temporary existence. So we had talked about this in the Gita class also. Ragabhavaha, Radvamsa abhavaha. What does it mean? Anybody remembers? Two words. Pragabhavaha and Pradvamsa abhavaha. What do they mean? Okay, so you may not have been in that class, so let me tell you. Pragabhava means absence before. Pradvamsa abhava is absence afterwards. So the body has abhava, non-existence, before it was born, and the body has non-existence after it dies. So Adi Shankaracharya is pointing out the body has temporary existence. It has a date of birth and a date of expiry. And what is the use of the body? It's an instrument for achieving various objectives in my life. So one of the objectives of being born with a body is to experience the karma phala, the pleasures and the and the sorrows coming along with the punya phalam and the papa phalam. With the good karma that you have done, with the bad karma that you have done, they have to be exhausted, and the body is a medium for the exhaustion. That is one of the reasons for having a body. Second one is, it is a moksha sadhana. It is a tool to be used for getting moksha. So Shastra says the primary purpose of a human life is to enable you to work towards moksha. That is why it's called a moksha sadhana. And sadhana means instrument, which is a very, very subtle word over here, because it is saying that you can love your body as an instrument, but don't love your body as yourself. You are not the body. So love the body as an instrument in the same way that I am fond of my car and I take care of my car and I ensure that it is cleaned daily and goes to servicing at regular intervals. Do all that for your body, but don't love yourself as the body, because that kind of excessive love is futile. Why? Such love will always trigger pain when the body starts decaying. So you will find yourself staring at the mirror when the first white hair comes, or when the first wrinkle comes. If you find yourself staring at the mirror and wondering, am I getting that slight pain that is happening to me? That's a sign that there is excessive love for the body. You have to ensure that it is channeled into love for the body as an instrument. Take care of the instrument, but know that the instrument will deteriorate over time. Instrument has a birth date. It has an expiry date. You must always remember that. Excessive focus on the body and worshipping the body is the understanding which had, for example, Virochana had. So Virochana story you know, right? Virochana and Indra story, do you know? What is the story of Indra and Virochana? Anybody knows? Come on, guys. I thought some of you would know.
Acharya, if no one else is going, I can.
Yes, Tanmay, please go ahead.
It's, I believe it's from the Chandogya, it's mentioned in the Chandogya Upanishad.
Yeah.
In very concise, the story as concise as possible.
Yeah.
Both Indra and Virochan. Indra is Indradev, Virochana is the king of the Asuras, and Indra is the king of the Devas. They both hear of Brahma Vidya. They both hear of Brahmaji praising, talking about Atman, talking about Brahman. And they both get curious about knowing this, which apparently gives you everything that there is to achieve within all the worlds. So they both approach Brahmaji separately, and now together they ask Brahmaji to expound on what is this Atma, which apparently knowing that one thing, you know everything and you get everything. So Indra and Indra and Virochana are told by Brahmaji to over a period of 100 years, I think, to observe brahmacharya, and at the end of the 100 years, he will tell them. So they do that, and then they come back to him and say 100 years are over. So he says, well, go to the nearby water and take a look at whatever you can see with your eyes. What you can see, that is Atma. So they go to the waters and they see the reflection, and what they can see are their bodies. They can see themselves. They can see their face, their hands, so on and so forth. And they come back and they tell Brahmaji that, this is what we saw. So does that mean the body is the Atman? And he says, yes, but wait, it's not yet done. Now go and put on, beautiful ornaments and deck yourselves up. And now go and see what you can see. So they go and do that. And with all gold and, diamonds and shimmering, they see that now, a bedecked physical body, body. And they go back and say that, is this Atman? And Brahmaji says, yes, this is what your Atman is. So both Indra and Virochan leave the place for their respective kingdoms. And Virochan gets back to the Asuras and he tells them that treat your bodies really, really well. This is Atman and this is what has to be taken care of. But Indra, on the way back to Swarga, he gets confused and he says, no, this can't be it, because beyond the body there is more. So this can't be Atman. So he goes back, and that's a different story.
Yeah, so he goes back, and then Brahmaji says, you now, go and meditate for 32 more years and come back. So every time Indra comes and says, is this the body? Is this the body? The Brahmaji says, yes, but you go and think about it again. So finally, at the end of a very long time, Indra understands that what Indra understands the Atma really is Atma, because every time he goes, he discards one. First, he discards the body, then he discards the mind, and so on and so forth. So Panchakosha Viveka basically. While Virochana, because of his excessive focus on the body and worshipping the body, he goes back and understands the body as Atma. So this is the story here. Shankara is saying that if you excessively focus on the body, you will end up worshipping the body. And the body is not going to be permanent. No body is ever permanent. Body has a date of birth. Whatever has a date of birth will have a date of expiry also. And therefore, the moment you accept the body as yourself, you have again laid the foundation for sorrow all throughout your life. Because every day the body will change. It will become less and less attractive. It will become more and more weak. And if you think that is you, then naturally you will be caught in a situation where there is no choice about what is happening to you. Okay, so care of the body is must, but only as a tool, only as sadhana, not as yourself. And he illustrates this very beautifully by pointing out that even the beloved wife will develop an aversion for the body of the husband once the husband is dead. Okay, so with this, I'll break for a small session of question answers, if anybody has. Some very unpleasant truths have been told, and the idea is to digest them.
Om Ravi ji,
Yes, Anjali.
I wanted to confirm the meaning of two words. I think I didn't understand. One is raktaha and second is gehe.
Gehe is poetic form of ghar pe, in the house. And raktaha is same as asakta, saktaha, attached.
So rakta means same as sakta.
Yes, attached. Another word for attached. Meaning here is attached to.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if nobody has any questions, we can go to the next verse.
Ravi ji?
Yes, Lataji,
Acharya ji.
yeah.
So ideally, the fact is that the body will decay, and we don't have to. I mean, we have to accept the fact that families will not be with us as long as we are earning. Everyone is with us, and we are not earning. The fact is that nobody will come and look after you and things like that. So ideally, when a person gets to old age, he will be dependent, right? In terms of if his health is not good.
Physically, yes.
Okay.
Shastra says physically you will be dependent. Physically, even now you are dependent. Even in the best of youth, you are dependent upon so many things. You are dependent upon the external world, is it not? So physical dependence
Yes.
can never be avoided. But mental independence is something which you need to develop. That is what is being said over here. Mentally, you must be tough.
So how do we go to the process of developing this mental strength out here?
That is what Shastra is all
Only
about.
by only about acceptance?
No. Basically, the whole idea of Shastram is to, first of all, give you emotional independence, right? Or whatever the scriptures tell you, if you've been, for those people who have been here for, let's say, couple of years or 3 years and have been studying the Gita, you can ask them how much of a change has come in their lives because of scripture. So a lot of them will tell you that the biggest change is the fact that I'm able to accept life as it is, that I don't get disturbed very much. That is the mental strength which is being built up. The acceptance of whatever comes, you can't just say, I'm going to accept it. That mind has to change. The mind can change only through the teaching of the Lord.
Okay.
So for us, it is very, very important to be consistently exposed to Shastra.
So can I relate this to continuously looking at FIR?
Continuously looking at FIR and knowing that I can manage that FIR. Here, there's another process involved. Most of us are in our because of our lives so far, we have a very low self-image. Because people keep telling you, you can't do this, you are like this, you are like that. How many of us have been told that the whole world, including your own very close family relatives and all that, they keep on pounding you with negative ideas about yourself. And most of us absorb those ideas so much that our self-image is bad. It is only Shastram which begins to change that self-image. The Shastram which tells you that no, that is not correct. And therefore, a continuous exposure to Shastram over a long period, you will find automatically strengthens your mind, and improves your self-image. Yes, Deepa.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, Acharya ji. It means, in one word, you can do your duty, but it cannot be your goal. You can earn money, you can provide things to your family, but it should not be your goal. Is it so?
See, here we come to the concept of karma yoga. As long as your duty, let us say earning money, is your primary goal in life, you will be affected by the vagaries of achieving or non-achieving that goal. But once you look upon that goal as an offering to the Lord, then the whole situation changes. If all your work is Ishvara Arpanam, it's an offering to the Lord, then you will find that whether you succeed fully or partially fail or fully fail, you are able to accept that success or failure without too much disturbance of mind. So that Karma Yogi's attitude has to come in. That is the only way at the level of karma.
So it means Prabhu Krapa and Prabhu Icha.
You can say that, but essentially it is up to you. It's not that Prabhu has to give his kripa to you because the kripa is available to everybody, right? It's not that Prabhu's kripa is only available to certain people. It's like, the sunlight. Sunlight is available to everybody, but only very few people are able to convert it into solar energy. Why? Because they take the trouble to tap it. And therefore, that grace of the Lord has to be tapped. You have to make efforts. Without your own effort, the grace is not going to be available to you at all.
Thank you.
सर कुछ दिखाई देता है सर और फिर हमको लगता है कि वो गलत है, तो क्या हमें उस पे कुछ बोलना नहीं चाहिए या फिर रिएक्ट करना चाहिए? अगर हमारा मन कहता है कि हमको नहीं बोलना है, लेकिन हमको दिख रहा है कि वो गलत है,
लेकिन
बोलना।
वहां पे आपका रोल क्या है वो भी अपने को देखने का ना।
हाँ, वो ही
अगर आपका अगर बच्चे गलत कर रहे हैं, डेफिनेटली यू हैव अ रोल। आपका बच्चे गलत कर रहे हैं, डेफिनेटली यू हैव अ रोल। योर नेबर्स आर डेफिनेटली यू कैन टेल देम।
नो, वी कैन टेल देम, बट कभी कभी ऐसा होता है ना कि वो सामने वाला नहीं समझता है ना,
तो फिर आप क्या कर सकते हो उसके बारे में?
वही पूछ रहे हैं ना कि हमको आंखें बंद कर लेनी चाहिए?
नहीं, आप एक बार बोल दिया छोड़ देने का उसके बाद में। What is the
हमारे
use?
दिमाग में तो उसका इफेक्ट पड़ गया ना।
That is because you don't know. You have to realize that you cannot change the world.
Yes, sir.
You can only change yourself.
That is true, but the world around is not that मतलब इतना.
See, it all depends on a role. If you're a policeman, you can do something, like that. If you're a politician, you can do something. If you're a school teacher, you can change your kids. Otherwise, what can you do? You're just breaking your head against the world. अगर आप रास्ते में गलत देखते हो, आप you pick up a stick and start fighting. How long can you start fighting? There is a role for everything.
You don't have to see that. मतलब आंखें बंद करके चल पड़ो ऐसा?
नहीं, if it is within your power to do something, do. If it is not, you cannot do anything. You know that, right? That acceptance has to be there of everything. मैं कुछ कर सकता हूँ, जरूर करूँगा. अगर नहीं कर सकता हूँ, तो I will not get bothered unnecessarily. अभी Russia has attacked Ukraine. I'm sure very many of us, don't like that fact. Can you do anything?
No.
Can you write, tons of posts on Facebook and make a difference? You won't.
No.
So why waste your time?
Okay.
Yes, Manashi.
So sometimes this happens to not that far Ukraine or Russia, maybe our relatives, own relatives, very close, maybe parents or husband or something like that. They are doing something wrong. We can understand them that it's wrong. Then what is our role in there?
आप बोल सकते हो जरूर. As a wife or daughter or a mother, you have an obligation to say. As a mother, much more, because the child is under your control. As a husband or as a spouse, you can say एक बार, दो बार, तीन बार. उससे ज़्यादा क्या बोलोगे आप? If your neighbor does something wrong, आप कुछ बोलने जाओगे तो वो बोलेगा तुम्हारा बिजनेस क्या है? What will you answer?
Yes, sir.
One has to be practical. Whenever I think that my effort can do some good, then I make the effort. Simply saying something is wrong and I will fight, that is meaningless, because you don't have the power to do anything. If you have the power, definitely. And before saying anything, you must make sure that it is really wrong. What you're saying is really wrong, not just in your opinion, but objectively wrong. Because very often what we think is wrong may be right from somebody else's point of view. Right?
Okay.
Let me give you an example, current example. You have, for example, in Bangalore, you have this big hullabaloo about hijabs. What do you think is the right thing to do? Guys?
It is everyone's personal opinion, of course, that what as a woman, if she wants to wear a hijab, it's all right.
But supposing I am a principal of the school, and my rules say that no religious, objects of, like scarves or hijabs or all these things are not allowed, or bindi for not allowed. Many convent schools, let me tell you, do not allow the bindi also. So should you make a fuss about it, or should you say it is the rule? It doesn't matter.
Of course, it is the rule. It does not matter. Of course, it is. If it is a rule in some schools, then follow it. If we have to go to that.
If you have put your child in that school, then you know that these are the rules, and then you are obliged to follow those rules.
Yeah, well, nobody forces you to go to the school, right? You can always say no.
Yeah. You can always say no. Yes.
Anyway, so that's by the way, I'm just saying how easy it is to get caught up in these things. Ideally, I would say, if you ask me, I would say it is the business of the girl, what she wants to wear. Whether a girl wants to come to school in a hijab or in short skirts, why should the school bother? That's my point of view. But if school has a particular set of rules, then that should be followed, or you should leave the school. So that kind of your what you call decisions, what is right and what is wrong, is highly subjective. And therefore, before you take any step at all to tell somebody, you should be sure that it is not your personal prejudice which is deciding what is right and what is wrong. It is objectively against the law. Aisa kuch hai, then it's okay. Otherwise, the best thing is to do what Gita says and keep quiet.
Om sir.
Yeah, Sundar.
If we apply the same rule to the ashram, our ashram, what will happen?
What rule?
Our dress code. Suppose students start coming in.
Exactly. So we have a dress code over there because the ashram is a spiritual place, and we don't want people in half pants or bikinis being there, right? So it's a code of the ashram that you have to do this, because nobody forces you to come to the ashram. But if I have a code, you have to follow. You can't use a religious excuse to say that no, my religion allows me to wear saffron shawl every day. I can't do that because the rules don't provide it.
Exactly, sir.
Exactly.
Thank you.
The idea of uniformity was therefore established in schools, Acharya. That's why school uniform, so that we could not differentiate between.
That is why it is called a uniform.
Yes, exactly.
So that everybody looks the same.
Yes. So
And
then
you
the
cannot
question
use your religious identity to change that. The school cannot tell you that you cannot wear, saffron scarf outside your house. But in the school premises, they can definitely say. Ashram cannot tell me that I can't wear half pants in my own house. But in the ashram, definitely they have a right to tell me, no, you should wear that white pant and yellow shirt. Right. So this kind of decisions before you take, one must be sure that what I am saying is correct from all angles. That's my point. Okay, so we'll look at one more verse. So please unmute yourself and we will chant verse number 7. Balastavat Kridasaktah Tarunastavat Taruneesaktah Vriddhastavat Chintasaktah Parame Brahmani Kopi na Saktah Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam,
Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate,
Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate
Govindam Bhaja
Bhaja Mudamate.
Okay. So Shankara is talking about how we waste our time. So he says, Balat Stavat Krida Saktaha. As a child, I am obsessed with playing and with sports. So Balat Stavat Krida Saktaha. My entire childhood, it goes away engaged in sports and play. So that entire period of childhood is gone. Then what happens? I become a young man. So Tarunaha. Taruna is a young man. Tarunastavat Taruni Saktaha. As a young man, my attention is focused on the opposite sex and I am taken up by Taruni, the young woman. So the entire life is spent in, the entire youth is spent in enjoyment of sensuous pleasures. The first Balaha part is spent in play. The second Tarunaha part is spent in enjoyment of bodily pleasures. And then what happens? Vriddhasthavat Chinta Saktaha. In my old age, my mind is full of worries and anxieties. Because so many anxieties can be there, right? Who will look after me? Do I have enough money? Where are my children? Will I fall sick? Will I, be in an ICU with all sort of pins and needles sticking out of me? All those worries are there. And because your mind is so full of those worries, it's not available to you. What is being said here is that in your childhood, your mind is not available to you because it is focused on play. As an adult, your mind is not available to you because it's totally taken up with the opposite sex. As an adult, your mind is, as an old man, your mind is not available to you because full of worries and anxieties. And therefore, Shankara says, Parame Brahmani Kopira Saktaha. The mind has never been available for a proper inquiry into life. At no stage of life has my mind been available, Parame Brahmani, to make an inquiry into Parabrahman Govinda. So Shankara is crying that people have time for all kind of things, but not for Parabrahman. He's asking us to reflect upon our priorities in life. And he's saying that unfortunately, at no time in your life, either as a child or as a young man or as an old man, have you shown any signs of viveka, discrimination? Why? Because mind is always occupied with something or the other. And for the mind to have the inclination to make an inquiry into your own life, it requires certain leisure of mind. You should not be preoccupied with basic needs and necessities. While most people are so preoccupied with fulfilling their basic needs that they have no time to think about life. And remember, the mind is, mind hates looking at itself. The mind hates making inquiries. Therefore, whenever you try to face your mind, the mind is always so tricky that it will come up with some justification or the other that not right now, I don't have the time. Let us have so many important things to do are there, right? So mind always comes up with excuses for not finding time for Vedanta study. And therefore Shankara says, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Inquire into yourself. Go to the scriptures. Do Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Hey Mudhamate, oh foolish person, he says, remember where you have come from. Remember why you have come here. Do not be diverted from your goal. Material and worldly goals are good, but they should not be in the predominant force in your life. They should not keep you so busy that there is no time for spiritual goals. What is the purpose of life? It is to inquire into who I am. The theory of karma, there is cycle of birth and death. All this we should be aware of. How will you be aware of this? Only if you have studied the scriptures. So the scriptures which tell you about theory of karma. It's scriptures will tell you about punya papam. It is scriptures will tell you about maranam and jananam cycle. That if you have punya and papa karma, you will go into the samsara cycle, and you will keep going into the cycle, facing sorrows and problems and difficulties in every life. And the only way to get out is to achieve moksha. That can be known only through the scriptures. And that is what is being mentioned here. Okay. We'll do one more verse, last one for today. So please unmute yourself. Verse number 8. Kate kanta kaste putraha. Samsaro yamativa vichitraha. Kasya tvam kaha kuta ayataha. Tatvam chintaya tadiha bhrataha. Okay, so this is the inquiry. What is the inquiry which he is asking us to make? He is telling us here, what kind of inquiry should we be making? So, kate kantaha. Kaha te kantaha. Who is your wife? Kaha te putraha. Who is your son? Samsaro ayam ativa vichitraha. So that breakup has to be proper. Samsaraha ayam sansaraha ativa vichitraha. This samsara, this world, is extremely strange. And then he says, Kasya tvam. Kasya tvam means to whom do you belong? Of whom are you? And kuta ayataha. Where have you come from? And tatvam chintaya tat iha bhrataha. Hey bhrataha, oh brother. Iha, in this place, tat tatvam chintaya. May you dwell upon those truths. May you inquire into those truths. So Shankara is addressing people, the majority of people who are totally engrossed in, or totally caught up, obsessed with worldly life, preoccupied with family, preoccupied with making money. And we all think that we are doing our responsibilities. But he's saying that these responsibilities, these duties, these concerns, you are totally infatuated with them due to strong attachment. And therefore you think that there is a very firm unit called a family. And everybody has relationships. Husband, wife, son, daughter. All these relationships have got value for us because we keep saying family. And Shankara says, what is the purpose of this family life? Have you ever thought about? Is the relationship between a husband and a wife merely meant for pleasure or to have children? Have you ever thought about what do we have children for? So there is much to learn from the Grahastha Ashrama. Duties, unselfish love, learning to offer all those karma which I do in Grahastha Ashrama in the way in which the Shastram tells us, as Ishvara Arpanam. What will come out of my focus in offering all my karma to the Lord as an offering? Because I have so much karma to do in my Grahastha life, in my household life, I have lots of actions to do. And if I learn to use them properly, if I learn to obey the commands of the Shastram and learn to offer all this karma to the Lord as Ishvara Arpanam, what is the result? Chitta Shuddhi. So this alliance between husband and wife, it should be not just for pleasure. It should be a complement to each other. And in fact, one of the 7 vows that you take, Tirtha Yatra, Yajna, Dharma, Karya, Puja, Anushtanam it is. You are saying that I will be a partner in the path of spirituality. I will do all Tirtha Yatras with you. I will do all Yajnas with you. I will do all Dharma Karyam, all actions relating to Dharma I will do with you. Puja Anushtanam, all the pujas I will do with you. And in that, what will happen with all this? You and I will mutually help each other to achieve Chitta Shuddhi. And having got Chitta Shuddhi, we shall mutually study the Shastram and we shall both get moksha. So that one of the main vows which you take, the first one, in fact, first vow is that I will walk the path of Dharma with you, which encompasses all this. I will help you to become a Jnana Yogi. And from that, we will both get moksha. So that is the very purpose. And therefore Shankara asks, Kate Kantaha, who is your wife? Kate Putraha, who is your son? Enquire. So he's saying that you enquire into who is that person whom you call a wife or a son. And if you enquire, you will find that before the wedding ceremony, there was only a girl or a boy who was a daughter or a son. At the wedding ceremony, the priest declared both of you as husband and wife. So the husband and wife were born at the wedding ceremony. These are all samskaras, an idea put into your mind. They are only roles. And don't exhaust yourself in these roles, because the roles will continue. First you are a son or you are a daughter, then you are a wife, then you will be a mother, then you will be a mother-in-law, then you will be a grandmother. And if you inquire, you will find that none of these entities are really there. They are all adhyasas, a superimposition upon yourself. That jiva who is you, who has independent existence, on that jiva, all these ideas are superimposed, adhyas. So Shastra points out that no mother really gives birth to a son, really gives birth to a jiva. Because why? The jiva has always existed. Before the birth of this body, the jiva has been there. After the death of this body, that jiva will still be there. Therefore, the mother gives birth only to the temporary physical body which the jiva occupies. First, the son was a jiva in the womb of the mother before birth. Before that, he was in the body of the father as the seed. Before that, he was a jiva by of plants or vegetables or something like that. So ultimately, there is really no birth at all. Bodies are born, bodies die. And now you is born in a human body and you call him a son. And another jiva is born in a girl's body or a boy's body and you call him a wife, or call her a wife, or you call him a husband. All the relationships, all these entities who are called wife, son, husband, they are nothing but permutations and combinations of that fundamental substance which we call the Pancha Mahabhutani, 5 elements. We should not lose sight of this truth. We must realize that each jiva has a journey of its own. And it is only because of the karma of the various entities, the shadowy hand of karma, you might say, that these people have come together in various relationships, husband, wife, son, mother. They come together, they live together, and again depart to go in their own way. So a good example here is, if you are, for example, entering a journey from Delhi to Trivandrum. It's a long journey, some 48, 50 hours. In the course of the journey, there are people who share your compartment. And because of the long journey, you become friends, you talk to each other, you even share food, you share your aspirations, talk about your lives. But when the destination comes, the passengers depart. Intermediate passengers also depart in middle. Somebody departs, stops at middle, where whatever stations come in the middle, somebody stops there also. And do we cry because somebody goes away? We don't. Because we know that each person has come from a particular town and he's going to go to a particular town. And we also know that each person will get down at his particular destination. Because each individual has his own journey to perform. The same way, every jiva has his own journey to perform. So in the gross body, which I think is my son or my wife or my husband, there is a subtle body, the jiva. That jiva travels from one body to another body, from one life to another life, according to its own prarabdha. And in every body, friendships are there, relationships are there. And when the particular prarabdha ends, we should realize that friendships and relationships also end. Therefore, the different members of family are also the same. They are there for a particular period of time. And as long as they are there with me, let there be love, let there be compassion, let there be service. But as far as possible, remain free from attachment. We should not become so attached and so dependent that we cannot do without anybody else. And when that happens, relationships get tarnished and all sort of demands are made, all sort of attachments arise. And therefore he says, samsaraha, ayam samsaraha, ativa vichitraha. We imagine all this is real, but this reality is something that I have given this. It is not there in real life. Life has a greater purpose. But I am so caught up in my various relationships that I forget the main purpose of my life, which is what? Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. So with this, we'll stop. And any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
So this jiva is Jeev Atma?
The same thing. Jivatma is Jiva.
Okay.
सर पेरेंट्स बीमार हो तो मतलब उनकी सेवा करना अटैचमेंट नहीं आता है क्या वहां पर? So if we are not attached, how can we do the?
There is a huge difference between love and attachment. Attachment basically is इसमें से मुझे क्या मिलता है? Love is not that.
Okay, no, love मतलब love is different. मतलब हम कर सकते हैं मतलब without desire.
You should do it as because you love them and it's a duty to look after them because they have looked after you. There is a debt to be repaid. That debt has to be repaid by all of us. It doesn't mean you can't love them, but you must know why you're doing it also. In fact, there's a very long discussion on this in the second chapter of the Gita on love and attachment. I don't know if you've gone through that. If you have not, you should go through that again.
Om Acharya, I have a question. It
Yes,
is not relevant to this text, but just like when we are talking about the Pitra Yagna, somebody just mentioned to me that one should not keep and pray the photographs of the pray to the photographs of the forefathers. Is there any truth in that?
Sorry, come again.
That when we are speaking of Pitra Yagna, so we should not have the pictures of, we should not pray to the photographs of our, ancestors and forefathers. So is there any truth in that?
That's, I think, basically highly individual because what you see in that forefather, the body is long gone, right?
Yes.
And even the Sukshriram, the subtle body would no longer be there in that form because it must have gone and taken some other form. So you're only honoring a memory. And for honoring that memory, the photograph is there, it is fine. Photograph is not there, it is in a memory, it is fine. All the other rules that you hear, they are made by Pandits for their own convenience.
So
But
essentially,
I have seen in many places that the puja room contains the parents' photos also. So I don't know how this person says that.
No, someone just mentioned that if you have the photos, it means that you still remain attached, and the so-called souls of the ancestors, they don't move. They kind of
That is
it's
not
all
your attachment is not going to hold back the sorry. That goes by prarabdha only.
right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so with this,
Sir, can I ask?
yes, Pira, please go ahead. Yeah.
What do you mean by strong prarabdha? Or
Strong
weak
prarabdha
prarabdha?
is depending your tendency of the prarabdha to take effect. Depending upon the karma. Let us say that some karma has been generated by a very, terrible act of yours. And some karma has
Mm.
been generated by a very mild act of yours. Intention, basically, in one case has been very strong. In one case, it's mild irritation or whatever. The strength of the action itself is different. And therefore, the prarabdha arising out of the action is different. One very strong in the sense that that will take place no matter what.
Mhm.
And others may be something which is can be nullified with prayers and stuff like that. So weak prarabdha, durbhalam and prabalam, we say.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so with this we'll stop. Thank you so much. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
Tat Sat.
patience.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you, sir.